The more emotionally connected you are to your inspiration or your idea, I say the more unique the designs that you distill out of that idea will be. Do not jump your toiling because you might regret it later on down the line. In this video, I'm going to be sharing my full design process. My name is Priscillia Okpan. I'm a Nigerian women's wear designer based in the UK. And I'm going to be talking through how I turn an idea or an inspiration into a final garment. So if you'd like to find out how the design process works as a fashion designer, fashion creative, make sure to keep on watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you have any additional tips that I missed in this video that we should be aware of or we should keep in mind when we're designing garments for men, for women, for children, or even for pets. So the first thing you obviously want to do is find an idea or something that would inspire the process for you. This could be a person, a movie, a book you've read, a personal experience from your past, your culture, your heritage, something that I would say is really personal to you or something that you are fascinated by, because the more emotionally connected you are to your inspiration or your idea, I say the more unique the designs that you distill out of that idea will be. This will make sense as we move on to the next step and the next step of the full creative process. Okay, so once you've figured out what inspires you or what your initial idea is, I think this is the most important part of the full process, which is research. Now, research could be in the form of going to see the movie that you're inspired by, going to a museum, a gallery. Basically, just explore that idea or that concept in a more deeper level. I say the more research you do, and this is something that I found from personal experience, that it really makes a huge difference, because it's during your research that you start seeing shapes, colors, and textures that you could now translate into garments or accessories or whatever you are creating. Enjoy it, because it's like getting to know your idea on a more personal level. And the more you know someone, the more you know your idea, the better you'll be able to really interpret it in your garments, whether that becomes like a really interesting detail that you picked up during your research, or it becomes the type of fabric or the prints that you create. And when you're doing your research, when you're going out to these different places, when you can safely, don't forget to take pictures, because it's from those pictures that maybe you didn't really notice something when you were there, but you can now go back and look at your pictures and be like, oh, the texture on this photo is really interesting. Maybe I can try replicating that by drawing it on paper or painting it with watercolor or making a small fabric sample that imitates a shape that you saw when you were doing your research. Research can also be done online. Google is your friend. I tell people this, like when people ask me certain questions, I'm like, have you tried Googling it though? Because there's so much free stuff on the internet. I say have a pen and a paper, and you can do quick sketches when you're out doing your research. So once you've done your primary and your secondary research, you've collected all of these pictures, all of these fabric pieces, all these videos that are going to feed into your design process, I would say organizing them into boards would make sketching or designing later on a lot easier. So you want to create a mood board which sets the tone for your collection. Your mood board can have your primary research, your secondary research, a photo of that idea that inspired you or that you're fascinated by. It can have bits of fabric or thread or anything put in there that would make it make more sense to you personally. Having a color board, having a silhouette board, a trend board, and a details board. Because if you've really done your research properly, you actually start to see a pattern of things repeating. You start to notice that you are attracted by the same shapes, the same colors or color groups, the same textures or prints, a trend that you want to explore. So you can do the board physically like I have behind me here, or you can do it digitally by making a collage of these pictures and just saving them on your computer, and then you can go back and look at them for reference. Now, once you have all of your boards done and ready, I think this is a good point to start making what I call samples. So this is not your final piece sample or your final garment sample. These are small samples that could be a feature on your garment. So you could consider making a pocket style, a sleeve style, basically in a smaller form that would give you a better idea of how it to fit or sit on the body. So doing a few of these is really great. Play around with the scale as well, so make them big, make them small, make multiple of them, because from making these samples you see what the details that you've been inspired from your boards, whether it's from a trend or from a silhouette or from a texture or from an image you saw when you went to do your primary research. But doing these like samples is always very helpful, very useful. It just helps you to visualize things better in terms of like garments and where you could possibly place them. This is a good point to also go and check out fabrics as well, because you want your fabrics and your designs to work in a way that if you are creating something that will have volume, you want to get a fabric that has a bit of body to it. If you're going to be working or creating drapey styles, you want to like look at flowy fabrics. If you want to like explore prints, you want to look at prints. So I say once you've created your board, you've done your samples, I feel like this is actually one of the best times to go and start looking for fabrics. Not necessarily to buy straight away, but just to go and see the options out there, shop for little swatches online. I've done a video where I shared where I get fabrics for my brand. I'm going to link it somewhere here or there, so you can check that out if you are somewhere where you can actually go out to get fabrics. Like we are in the UK in lockdown, you can still do that online. You can order swatches, you can order half a meter or a meter, so you get to touch and feel and test the fabrics before committing to them. So the next step is a part that either excites some people or scares some people, and that is when you have to sketch your designs. So this you can do physically by hand, or you can do on softwares like Adobe Illustrator if you're someone who enjoys to actually draw on your tablet, on your computer, or on your laptop, whatever device that you have. What I would say is that you don't have to be the best at drawing to sketch. There are lots of ways that you can make this step like a lot quicker for you. I say if you can find a body template, whether it's men's or women's, whatever you're designing, and just draw over that body template, it will just make it a whole lot easier if you're not really good at drawing like myself. So I went ahead to create a design planner, and what this is literally a planner that has a blank body template like this on that side, and then it has a column for measurement on this side, and then a small section on the bottom where you can write notes. It also has another page that helps you to collect your fabric swatches, so you can put a piece of the fabric there. You can write how much the fabric cost you, the name of the fabric, who the supplier is, how much you'll be needing, as well as the fabric composition. Another cool page in this planner is this page that lets you plan your design. You have an area asking you how long it will take you to make it, the patterns you need, and if you want to sketch it quickly here, there's a box for taking down more notes. There's also a page that just has the blank body, and then it has a space on the top where you can write down date and the name of the style, so you can literally just print out only that page and do it for the multiple styles in your collection, or only do it if you are making just that one piece. So this is something that is available on the store as a PDF file that you receive via email, you download on your computer, and you can print as many copies as you need. This is something I already use. I have been using without knowing that I needed it, and I hope you find it useful when it's time to actually create your sketches. The body template I did myself on Adobe Illustrator because I wanted it to be something that was fully custom made by Kim Dave. So once you've created your designs, and I suggest making a lot, like if you are planning a collection of 5 looks, design up to like 25 to 30, and then you can really like distill out combos of tops and bottom, dresses, add accessories in there, like do a lot more than you need, because from that array of designs that you've done, you cannot pick the very best ones that you can go ahead to make a toile and your final garment from. Play around with volume, you could play around with length, you could play around with placement of details on the garment, where you put zips, where you put pockets, the width of your collar and lapel, how many buttons you use. So once you've picked your final piece, I always recommend that if you've never done that kind of design before, to make something called a toile. Toile. I don't think it's an English word, so I always say it wrong, but I always recommend making a toile if it's a design you haven't done before, because making a toile would allow you to make mistakes because you're using a very cheap calico or cheap muslin fabric to make that garment or that accessory. So once you've made your toile, whether you're draping on a mannequin or you're doing the patterns, whatever method that you like to work with, I prefer to do from pattern onto toile and then final garment. Some people like to drape, pattern, make the toile again, and then do final product. Whatever process works for you, whatever you feel more comfortable with, I say go ahead with that. I, for one, I just like to do patterns. I make a toile and then correct whatever mistakes that I see on the toile on my pattern, and then I could either make a second toile or go ahead to make my final garment. But once you've done your toile and you're happy and you've made your patterns or you've draped whatever direction you prefer, then you can go ahead to make your final piece. So your final piece is your final garment or your lineup of collection. This takes a while to make, so enjoy the process. You can also consider outsourcing. This is something that I tell like some people who are afraid of like making pieces for their collection. You can outsource the construction part to a more experienced seamstress, a more experienced tailor, or you can collaborate with them and tell them, you know what, I will design the garment. You will be in charge of making the patterns, of grading the patterns, and making the final garment. You can also collaborate with pattern cutters, with garment technologists, if you're not really experienced in that area. I know for my first collection, I actually worked with a more experienced seamstress because I wanted my garments to just have that really professional finish. Now I feel a little bit more comfortable making my pieces myself, but when I started out, I actually worked with a seamstress who made my pieces for me. So there's nothing wrong in outsourcing. I always tell people this, like, just be open about it. When someone asks you who made your clothes, tell them who made your clothes. There's no shame in that. If anything, you have the opportunity to collaborate with someone who has more experience and possibly learn something from them in the process, and vice versa. This video broke down the full creative process in a way that you can relate to, in a way that makes sense. Like I said, I have a PDF ebook which you can purchase and go through if you want something more in depth, but that's basically, this process is basically what I go through when I make a new collection for my brand. If it's a recreation, maybe I saw a garment or you guys send me your request through, I would just sketch the design there, write down my measurements, any notes, and then on this other page I would actually write down or draw out the pattern pieces that I know I'm going to need, and then do another sketch here if I want to, write down how much fabric I will need, how long it will take me to make. And that is because I've been making clothes for, I would say, well, I don't know, about 5 years now. So there are certain things that I just like jump over if I'm just making a piece for myself. But if you're going to be making a collection, this is usually the full process that I go through as shared in this video. If you have any other tips, recommendations, any books, any materials that you think we should check out, please share in the comment section down below. If you found this video useful as well, I would love to know. If you think I omitted anything, please let me know as well. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and join the K-Divas fam if you haven't already. And I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.